Hey, how you doing, Bill?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
I just opened up the meeting. Okay. I'm eating my dinner.
I just had mine.
A protein bar.
I had one of those KFC. Are we recording yet?
Yeah.
Oh, I had one of those KFC famous bowls. It was good.
Yeah, we're recording. So. I think you guys tonight, between you and the chief, you can update him on updating our use of force policy
Okay.
and the what you found out about the chokehold.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, who else? I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted. I'm tired today. Holy cow.
That cold didn't help stuff. That was bitter today.
Well, I've been going since 8:30. It's just been one thing after another.
You know, what's nice is Chief and I had some meetings with some people, very, very positive, very productive. So, hey, I'll take days like that every day.
Good. Okay, got the chief joining us. We got Greg Carey joining us. Hey, Greg, how are you? He's just, his audio's just coming up. Chief, your audio there?
I hope so.
Okay, you got to change your message on your phone. Recording,
Okay.
yeah, it still says Chief Rowley, so,
I just got my business cards today and my letterhead.
okay.
So tomorrow will be the voicemail.
Greg, you there?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon or good evening.
How you feeling?
With my hands.
All right, you're doing good then.
Doing good, Mayor.
Good.
As long as there's just the four of us on, next week might be a problem because I got to be at Roswell for 10 hours for my first regimen of medication.
Okay, we are being recorded, so,
All right. That's all right.
yeah, okay. Well, good luck with that. We'll keep you in our prayers.
I'm going to be around for a long time.
Yeah, I know you are. What's the saying? Only the good die young.
That's right.
How about Potato Bailey dying, huh?
I didn't hear that.
I didn't either.
Yeah, not the young, well, he's not young. He's probably around our age or somewhere in there, but yeah. He passed away.
It wasn't in the Country Fair parking lot, was it?
No, he was always there. It could have been, yeah. Yeah, no, he was in a facility out in Ohio, I think is what it said. He was an interesting individual.
Yes, he was. He spent many a night sleeping in his truck at Country Fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Vernon, how are you?
Evening.
I'm good.
How's Vernon?
Another busy day.
I've never had one of those.
Yeah.
It'll get busier for you guys if this wind picks up tonight, huh?
Yes. Yes. I've been in Wellsville the past couple of weeks. So it's been kind of driving back and forth.
You have to bring us back some hot dogs from the Wellsville. This is hot.
You know, I've never eaten there. I've heard so much about it, but I've never eaten there.
Yeah. We used to eat,
Delmonico steaks are better than the hot dogs.
Yeah.
you gotta go there for the hot dogs. We used to, when I worked for my grandfather delivering beer, I can't remember what day of the week we went there, but we'd always go to Texas Hot for lunch. Get a couple of hot dogs and the Texas hot sauce, and my granddaughters, they will drive out there just to get some hot dogs. So,
I've done that before too.
yeah.
Harry Shearer did lots of times.
Oh, yeah. Got a lot of very good eating places, around our whole area. And I keep forgetting the one that only has breakfast up there in Angelica. They're only open seasonally.
Hmm.
Pancakes is.
Talking about the pancake place?
Yeah. Mhm.
I don't remember the name of it, but I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think the last time I've been to Angelica was a bike rally.
I think I was there for that one.
Oh, yeah. That's a far ride.
I was.
Hey, Ty, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, buddy.
Ann, you with us?
Yes, yes, I am here. Thank you.
Okay. Mickey?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Evening.
Harry, there's Lieutenant Dan.
Good evening.
Hi, Dan, how are you? And we got, we will have a guest tonight, Mary O'Leary. She's on. I don't see her in the screen right now, but there's Mary. You with us, Mary?
Hi, Mary.
Hello.
Evening.
Lori, you with us?
Yep.
And Daryl, you're with us?
I'm here.
Karen? And Barry. Coming on. Everybody's coming on. Karen.
Good evening, folks.
Evening, Barry.
Oh. How are you?
Good. How are you doing tonight?
Good. And is JR, you with us?
Yep.
Okay. Karen, we got
Here.
audio with you?
Yep.
Kenny, we got audio yet with you?
Yes.
Okay. I'm waiting to see, who's ASAP to? Okay, all right, we got you, Darren. Yep. Okay. And JR's got a girlfriend with him?
Oh, it's Dax.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Dax. Wave.
Hey. Hi, how are you?
Like a sheepdog. See yourself?
Okay, Della's Della in right now. Okay. Okay, if I think we got pretty much everybody who's going to get on tonight here. So I just have one thing I want to go over first, and then we'll Mickey, I know you've got some things, but we've got a guest tonight. We got Mary O'Leary from the county, county mental health, and she's here to give us tell us a little bit about that and then answer questions. Okay, so but first off, I sent out a copy of the email today that Kevin Doherty has resigned from the committee. And I've had a couple of conversations with different people on the committee so far, and I just want to read you something. I am afraid that if the atmosphere of intimidation that exists is not addressed and everyone feels free to express their opinion without fear of admonishment, then other resignations may be inevitable. When we started out with this, I set up some ground rules. And at the time, I didn't hear any objections to them. I just want to read you a couple of them here. Be patient when listening to others and do not interrupt them. Listen with an open mind, and you can respect other person's point of view without agreeing with them. Attack the problem and not the person. That's the last four, about the last four things that we talked about. So I'd like to bring the committee back to focus on what we're here for. And be respectful of each other. Everybody on this committee has the right to express their opinion without fear of being, without fear at all. So having said that, we'll move forward. So we have a guest here, Mary O'Leary from the County Mental Health. Mary, would you like to give us a brief statement, and then we can open it up for questions, okay?
Okay, well, thank you very much for inviting me. Mayor Alio had asked me to come and talk a little bit about the Department of Community Services, which is mental health for Cattaraugus County, their crisis plan. So when I say crisis plan, we have clinics in Olean, in Salamanca, and in Machias. We're also at the Olean Medical Group. We have a clinic, an outlying clinic at CARES. We have someone who goes to CARES twice a week. We are in two schools. We're in Gowanda and Franklinville, or I'm sorry, Pioneer and Gowanda. And we are really the primary mental health agency for the county. So we have, therapists, we have a child psychiatrist, we have adult psychiatrists, we have nurse practitioners. So we really try to address a lot of the needs for mental health treatment in the county. And our crisis plan really has evolved over the years. We do have 24-hour crisis response, which means during the day, 8 to 5, if you would call one of the clinics, then someone, and if you were in a crisis, someone would try to talk with you that day. They would try to either get you into an appointment. We have gone out before, but we do try to address many of the clients and crises that we get during the day in any of the clinics that are called. In the after hours, which really is 5 until 8 a.m. the next morning, we have an on-call crisis worker. Typically, the call comes through our crisis line, which is housed at Olean General Hospital. And the person answering the phone at the hospital will determine whether or not the crisis worker needs to be called. The crisis worker then will reach out to either the person or the family member or friend or community member that's calling to try to find out more information. We also will offer them a crisis plan or an appointment or some counseling right there and then. Ultimately, a lot of times we get a call because someone is at imminent risk to themselves or others. And that is our standard, is that a person has to be at imminent risk to themselves or others to be taken to Olean General Hospital, which is the closest hospital that has a psychiatric unit, to be assessed. And the way that is done is either one of two ways. We either, the mental health worker fills out a form requesting that the person be transported to the hospital for an evaluation, or law enforcement can fill out a form asking or indicating that they are going to transport someone to the hospital for an evaluation. Once they get to Olean General Hospital, they are evaluated, and then it's determined there if they need to be hospitalized or not. So that's a very, very brief description of our crisis plan. We do a lot of what we get a crisis call. It's not clearly an imminent risk, but certainly the person is in need. And we will try to address that issue as quickly and as safely as possible. We have a lot of different resources here in the county. We have care coordination. We have a lot of a respite house that we share with Chautauqua County. The respite house is something that is in place for those who don't need to be hospitalized, but certainly need a couple of days to kind of clear their head. They provide transportation to and from. It is a process to, you call the respite house, talk to one of the workers. They make sure that there are, no safety issues, that kind of stuff. And then that is an opportunity for people who are not at the level to be hospitalized, but do need perhaps a couple of days to just kind of figure out what their plan needs to be so they can remain in their community. Ultimately, our goal is for everyone to remain in their own community. And that's why we have services put into place, care coordination. We have different levels of care. We also have a PROS program, which stands for Personalized Recovery Oriented Services. That would be the old day treatment that people might hear about, day treatment. It's an opportunity for someone to do all day programming. It's focused on recovery. So the goal is not for them to remain in the program, but instead to develop some goals for themselves and then move out of the program. So that is at the old NIMO building on Lawrence Street. And we have care coordination, which is located directly across the street in the church and the building across the church. As I said, we have our Olean Counseling Center, which is housed in the county building. Machias is housed in the Stone House up in Machias. And the Salamanca Counseling Center is housed just directly behind Main Street in Salamanca. So I'm trying to be as succinct as possible. I don't know if people have questions or if I need to explain something further.
Could you explain the interaction or a little bit more on how the on-call worker would interact with the Olean Police Department or any police department?
Okay, sure. What happens is typically we get a call about someone, or the police actually, or law enforcement actually calls us and said, so-and-so, we really feel like somebody needs some help. Part of our regulations is that if we go out to see someone face to face, that we need to take a law enforcement officer with us. Sometimes that is with us into the property. Sometimes it's just to be outside, because ultimately, if someone is transported to the hospital and they cannot be transported safely by a family member or friend, then law enforcement is asked to transport them to the hospital for the evaluation. In the years that I've worked in mental health, we've established a pretty good relationship with a lot of law enforcement because we really depend on them to assist us. Oftentimes, they have a lot more background information than we do about the person, even if they're seen in our clinic. Law enforcement sees them in their community and can give us a lot of background. So our interaction with them is either calling them, talking to them, or they're calling us and asking us for assistance. But ultimately, if we go out to see someone, we do ask that law enforcement go with us. Sometimes they don't need to go all the way into the structure with us, but we will ask for them to remain. And sometimes there is a time when we'll say, no, we're fine, go ahead and go. But I would say that the majority of the time, we would ask that law enforcement accompany us.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Karen.
Mary, my sister was in Greece and I have a friend that I know. Ambulance was there, mental health worker was there, and alcohol played a very big role in her mental issues. And they kind of both looked at each other and said, well, this is a mental case. We're not transporting her to the hospital. On the other side of the coin, you know, they said, no, this is an alcohol thing. You know, you need to go. Because of the use of drugs and alcohol, how does that cloud the mental health response?
You mean the worker's response or?
Yeah. I mean, there's a fine line
Yeah.
that causes mental health issues and, you know, to be able to determine which is causing which.
I think that oftentimes what will happen is that because of there's the person's state of mind who might be on some type of substance, that oftentimes we are able to say they really are a risk to themselves or others because they can't make good judgments. The issue becomes that Olean General Hospital, which is the primary hospital we would take them to, doesn't have a detox unit. They'll basically let them sober up or let them kind of, you know, get to the point where they can make a decision. And then if they're still not at risk, they will discharge them. But I think that the Council on Addiction Recovery here in town is really moving more toward trying to be more involved in those type of situations where someone's brought to the hospital. It is a fine line between mental health, and oftentimes we'll say the substance is impairing their ability to make a good judgment. And so we can have them evaluated at the hospital because a lot of times, you know, we want to make sure that that substance isn't hiding a mental health disorder. You know, oftentimes people will medicate themselves to, you know, kind of get away from the pain or the frustration or whatever their mental health is providing for them.
Mary, I don't see any other hands. So Mary, what is your feeling about mental health just responding to these calls without law enforcement?
I think that for the most part, it becomes a safety issue because the mental health worker, if going in alone, they have nothing. If something should start to happen, people become aggressive, if people are threatening for whatever reason, whether they're, you know, under the influence of something or they're having some type of mental health crises, it really is a risk factor. So we, as part of our regulations, we have to take a law enforcement person with us. As I said earlier, it's a very interesting judgment call because I've been out on calls where I didn't feel like law enforcement needed to be there the whole time, but they've always accompanied me. So I would say that law enforcement should be a part of it for any number of reasons.
Okay, there's a trend out there of you know, just mental health workers just going to these calls, and help me out, everybody, if I'm saying this wrong, but there seems to be a trend that some places, not only in this state, but others, and mainly larger cities, are having mental health respond to these calls, or it's it's at the dispatch center, it's determined that this is just a mental health call, they just send mental health. And no police there unless there's a problem. So, I mean, there could be a delay in time that a worker could be in jeopardy from what you're saying. So it's your policy that you call police and they assist you until they're told they don't need to be there anymore.
That is correct. I think a lot of times what I hear about our crisis teams, like more than one person in mental health, more than one mental health worker going out. And, you know, I have heard of that, but in Cattaraugus County, we do ask that the law enforcement officer go with us.
Okay.
Mary, I've advocated for a social worker being added to the Olean Police Department. I'm wondering how well resourced you are and whether you think that is a valuable idea. If, for example, at 11 o'clock at night, the Olean police get a call about somebody who appears to be outside, not quite all there, and there's a concern about homelessness, there's a concern about potential drug addiction, there's just a general cloud of concern about the person. How quickly are you able to get one of your people out there to assist Olean Police Department? Is Olean Police Department better served by having a social worker at their disposal right on their staff to tend to that situation? Is the person you're sending a social worker? And what's the turnaround for your office? I guess I'm wondering.
Well, I think there's some of them coming out. It really depends on where they live. Our crisis workers, you know, some of them live in Pennsylvania, other ones live very close to Olean. So it really is the person who would be on call if they were asked to go out. As far as having a social worker, I mean, I'm a social worker, so I always advocate for social workers to be part of teams, because I think that you know, one of the strengths about a social worker is that we are a very generalist education. So we have a kind of variety of education and skills. And I think that having a social worker be available to the police or any law enforcement for that matter would, you know, be helpful. But at times there's not a need for it. If there's no crises, if nothing is going on, then that would be, you know, what would they be doing? Maybe they could be educating, maybe they could be doing some services or something. But I think a lot of times the assessment, kind of that, what you were talking about, is it substance abuse? Is it mental health? Is it in a living situation? If someone just recently, you know, had a breakup in a relationship, they could be outside acting very oddly. That doesn't mean they're mentally ill. That doesn't mean they need to be hospitalized, but it may mean that they need some type of intervention. So I think that that's where the strength of a social worker or counselor could come into play.
Is there any opportunity for shared services where a social worker is on your staff, but also is available to the Olean Police Department through certain hours, set hours? Is that a possibility?
I mean, I think anything is a possibility. I believe that collaboration is important. And I also believe that, you know, working as a team and kind of getting to know the community is very important. It's always an idea. We contract all our clinical staff out, so it would be a contracted position, wouldn't be a county position.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mickey?
Ms. O'Leary, I was just curious, when you dispatch a crisis worker or a social worker, do you respond to any requests, or only, you know, the requests or the calls that come in that require hospitalization or evaluation? Like, do you go there to help de-escalate, negotiate, talk down, etc.?
We will. A lot of our calls are not crisis where they need to go to the hospital. A lot of our calls are people who are just in a, you know, they're having a bad day, they're having a bad week, their life is not going well. Perhaps there's some other things going on, and we offer the ability to, you know, offer some assistance, some reassurance, some alternatives, some other programs. So it's not just for people who need to go to the hospital, because oftentimes when we get a call, someone is saying they really need to go to the hospital, but when we're talking to them, we're finding out other things. So we respond to a wide gamut of things. And an example is the crisis line at Olean General Hospital doesn't get a lot of mental health crises. They get a lot more, how do I find, an application for housing or something like that. So it's, we offer a lot of different information, but if we need to talk to someone and really say to them, I really feel like you're at risk of hurting yourself, hurting someone else, and I have to make sure that you're safe and that everybody around you is safe, that's when it becomes an issue of we need to have you evaluated at the hospital. But that's, not a great percentage of the people that we deal with.
And of the percentage of the people that go for the mental health evaluations, do you have any idea of what percent, at least here in OGH, end up getting admitted for help?
I don't have a real percentage. I wouldn't say that it is a high percentage. It's a lot of, it comes down to that imminent risk. And imminent risk is, are you going to hurt yourself or hurt someone else right here, right now? A lot of times, if you've been in the ER in the last, year, it's quite a wait. So a person who's being evaluated has to have a medical clearance, which could take some time. And then they're seen by a mental health person, which might take some additional time. So oftentimes, if someone is not admitted, it's because they've been in the hospital and they may be able to process some of the problems they were having, and they're no longer at imminent risk.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Mary? Go ahead, Karen.
It's not necessary for Mary, because I think Mike or Ron might be able to answer it. Let's just say we're, on Prospect, and we have to transport. Who transports that person? Do they go with OPD, or do you call an ambulance for that? I mean, we talk about the transport totally in general, but who does that?
If the person is not medically compromised, we would ask either a family member or friend, or if they're not able to, law enforcement would transport. If they're medically compromised, if they can't be safely transported in a police car, then we would ask for an ambulance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Comments for Mary or questions? I know when we talked about this, there was a lot of questions, so, and I know it's been a couple of weeks, or it's been a week or so, but, okay, well, Mary, thank you very much. You're welcome to, stay on and listen, or, you can sign off if you'd like to, so.
Well, I will make one last comment. We do have a meeting that we have each month here in Olean, and it is termed a high utilizer of services. And we are very lucky to have a large contingent of community members and agencies represented to talk about the people that might be bubbling up. They may not be at a crisis level, but boy, they're just kind of bubbling up in the community. And we're able to talk about those people and try to put a plan into place to keep them from having to go to the hospital and remaining in their community safely. And I would just, send accolades out to all the agencies and all the people that participate and assist us with that meeting. So that would be my final statement, and I appreciate you coming. And if you have any other questions that come up later, I can certainly leave Mayor Alio my contact information and some resources if you'd like.
I think, is that the committee, Mike? Is that the committee that you sit on?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mickey George had some questions from the last meeting, I believe. So Mickey, you want to,
Yeah, sorry I missed the last meeting, everyone. I just typed up a little response as I followed along. There was a lot of interesting questions asked at the last meeting and a lot of good topics brought up. So I just hope to quickly hit on those. In regards to the banning of chokeholds, I received a call from the chief this morning to say that he updated the use of force policy. Is that right, Mr. Richardson?
Yes, Karen brought it to our attention, needed some clarification, and it should reflect in everyone's power DMS.
Excellent. Thank you for the update with that. So the new bill, which the one everybody was talking about, is S6670, S6670. One of the key words in the new law is or similar restraint, which could be loosely interpreted as, you know, avoiding pressure to the face, the neck, the chest area at all costs during restraint. The new law also encapsulates punishment for officers who fail to intervene when witnessing such an event. Let's see. If found guilty of such behavior, an officer could be charged with a Class C felony. Crime is also classified as a violent crime, which could create difficulties in finding new work, home or firearm ownership, etc. Barry asked about the use of the vascular restraint. And I'm all about technical and defensive tactics, and I love what you do and how you help educate and train others. But I think in regards to this, I think similarly to New York State, that it can be too risky in most cases. And the bill,
Before you go too far, if you just look at our policy, we do no chokeholds, including that.
right,
Okay.
right. Because the law makes it pretty unambiguous that it's or similar restraint. So it's kind of all encompassing.
Yep, and our policy covers that.
Great. Let's see. Daryl asked an outstanding question that I want to touch on about the limitations on hours worked. I just wanted to mention Microsoft did an experiment 2 or 3 years ago that saw a massive increase in the productivity of its workers, as well as reductions in operating costs and waste when they gave employees a 4-day work week. Employees not only outperformed, but their happiness increased as well. Other similar studies have been done and found similar results. For a role as important as a police officer, implementing a solution like this not only seems ideal from a best practice standpoint, but could actually help and make landing a job with OPD look a little more appealing. Ty mentioned or asked a question about procedures and gear during protesting. I just wanted to chime in and say that such information may seem tactical, but it's not, because there's no active situation, therefore there's no tactical data. Ty was absolutely correct in saying that we're supposed to be discussing this policies and procedures. At the recent Common Council meeting on Tuesday, President Crawford stated we should all share and help educate each other. And I echo that sentiment completely. And if, let's see. If members of this committee sustain positions of non-compliance with the provisions of the executive order, then I will reach out to Ty and anybody else interested and share my knowledge of the provision of the force deployments, tools, and tactics involving these situations. I would also point anyone interested in this to document O-28. Part of the disaster plan for the city is terrorism. It is the 4th item mentioned in the plan's overall scope with a moderately high hazard occurrence potential. On the surface, protests seem peaceful and progressive, but to those charged with ensuring public safety, that's the ultimate concern. Rioting, looting, property damage, violence, all of which could easily be attributed to or become acts of terrorism. I think understanding the elements laid out in the disaster plan can give a somewhat general overview of what officers and officials will be doing during protests or other widespread public safety issues. Having said that, I would be thrilled to see the elimination of CS gas from our inventories. CS gas is banned in combat zones under international law as a recognized chemical weapon. and it is known to have some inhumane side effects. Police forces have been green-lighted to use this for decades because in most use cases, civilian spaces are not considered combat zones. It seems relatively mild, the effects of CS gas to the affected, but this gas condenses in the air and becomes a very fine crystalline powder, so it's not actually a gas. And when too much of that powder gets ingested or in the eyes, there can be serious health complications, including blindness and death. And considering our history, I don't think there is any credible need for such devices to be maintained or kept outside of, well-managed SWAT teams. And about the postings and media publishings Ty mentioned at the last meeting, arrest records are public records. Anybody can view them. And there are blotter sources that track them, much like the Olean Times-Herald does. However, during any domestic incident, it is required by law to offer and inform victims of available services. Part of that is assessing a victim's vulnerability, and actions can be taken to help protect the victim from any further harm or reasonable threat. I don't think anything can be done to withhold such information, such as the address. But I think it's a nice idea and something we could definitely take to our state officials. There was a mention of physical fitness at the last meeting, and the mayor's response was pretty accurate, I thought. Incentives can be given, but requirements can't realistically be too strict while maintaining compliance with state and federal labor and equal opportunity law. You can, however, have local policies that ensure an officer is capable of performing specific job duties. For example, the ability to lift 60 pounds unassisted or similar functions. There are certain medical conditions that can cause rapid or excess weight gain, muscle deterioration, or other handicaps. And there are certain medical, and the law states that they cannot be discriminated against. So there are the hurdles of the law, but then you also have to consider protections and processes from the union agreements. As far as community engagement for the public Zoom, I think Daryl was right that Zoom would be fine for this, and you would kind of treat it like a town hall. And to follow up with that, in Zoom, you can actually change the settings so that everybody is muted by default, everybody. And you simply approve the speakers or unmute them one at a time. Even us, the panelists, would be muted until you individually unmute us. When each person is done, you mute them again. It will be some hardcore moderation, but you can give somebody else moderation abilities in the event you don't feel comfortable that you could keep up. You can call their name and your moderator can do the muting and remuting. I wouldn't expect a massive amount of public input anyways, considering the majority of the public is still somewhat polarized on these issues. Some don't want to be on the record supporting police reform efforts. Some oppose anything the governor does whatsoever. But I would ask to be sensitive of input lag during this, audio distortions, etc. Other than that, I think it would work well. And that's all I had to follow up with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. Okay, comments? Anything on Mickey's remarks? Go ahead, Michael.
I think, some of the stuff you brought up, I probably made a mistake when I introduced myself in the first meeting. I just said I'm Captain Marsfelder from the police department, and I didn't go into my qualifications. Maybe I should have. Maybe that would have helped alleviate some of these questions or maybe guide them more properly. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just let you know a little bit more about me and what I do for this department as far as supervision and training. That may alleviate or clarify some issues, if you don't mind. In 1989, I graduated from Olean High School and went in the Army, and I was a paratrooper for 3 years, and I'm a veteran of the 1st Gulf War. When I got out, I got an associate degree at JCC here, and then went to the police academy and started here in Olean in 1995. Some of my certifications and qualifications and training, when I start saying these, some of it might start to make a little more sense for you guys. I've been a member of our SWAT team. We call it the Emergency Response Team since 1998. I hold basic SWAT certification. I'm a graduate of the FBI Advanced Sniper School, graduate of FBI Advanced Sniper Observer course. I'm a state certified field training officer, member of our former community policing team under retired Sergeant Carey. I'm a general topics instructor. I'm a firearms instructor. I'm an armorer. I'm a taser instructor. I'm a New York State conducted energy device instructor. I graduated from the New York State course for police supervision. I'm an instructor evaluator for both general topics and firearms. I hold basic and advanced juvenile officer certification. I attended the field intelligence officers course. I'm a chemical munitions instructor. I'm a specialty impact munitions instructor. I've received training in interview and body language techniques, interview and interrogation, homicide, and non-fatal shooting investigations. I've attended the FBI week-long seminar for law enforcement executive development, and I'm also an instructor for civilian response to active shooter events. That's a little bit more about me, and I apologize. I think I did this committee in the department a disservice by not, I'm not a big fan of talking about myself, but I think by not doing that in the vein of transparency, now you know that some of what we do here and was instructed, and maybe that can help guide or maybe alleviate some questions. So thank you for your time in that.
Thank you, Captain. Okay, anybody else? All right, go ahead, Vicky.
Oh, I just wanted to follow up with the PL for the creation of the elected CRB. I went through that, and I thought Mr. Robinson, did a great job putting that together. It looks really solid, really promising.
Well, that's our next topic here. So Vernon, do you want to preface this, the next topic with your the police review board that you presented to everybody?
Yes, I can, Mayor. This I changed the name to make acronym Olean's Elected Civilian Review Board. This particular one was initially created from New York City and their charter. They had issues with their original civilian review board because along with the issues that you've heard about in the media, they were not able to come to conclusions on the police officers that had done wrong in the community, basically. So they rewrote this particular one to replace their current civilian complaint review board, is what the original one was called. So what I did was I took this one and rewrote it to fit Olean, not as a final product, but something that we could have as a foundation and we could work on from there. I've heard pros and cons from multiple people. I'm interested in finding out what everyone else thinks that I haven't heard from, but I'm just looking forward to hearing comments.
Okay, Greg, go ahead, Greg.
If I could start off, just to make it clear, I am totally in favor of accountability and transparency in policing, okay? And I don't think you'll find less than 99% of law enforcement officers across the country that would disagree with accountability and transparency. In reference to the Civilian Review Board, I got to tell you, I'm totally against it, and I'll tell you why before I get into the draft that you're proposing to us. law enforcement is a profession, as is healthcare providers, as are lawyers, as are military personnel, as are teachers. When you file a complaint of misconduct against a healthcare provider, it's examined and the investigation is done by a medical review board or whatever they call it, depending on where you're at. But that review board is compiled of educated, certified, and sometimes licensed healthcare professionals. When you file a complaint against the lawyer, they go in front of sometimes the Bar Association. Most of the time for misconduct, they go in front of a panel of judges. These people are educated, okay? They're they're lawyers in that profession. They're educated and certified lawyers. To me, why would it be different for law enforcement professionals? We have resources in place of highly educated, certified law enforcement officers, and those are the people that I believe should be judging or exonerating or finding guilty the law enforcement professional, as in the other professions. Now, the state has gone further and stated that for the use of deadly physical force, whether it's fatal or not, it automatically gets reported to the state. And then the Attorney General's office causes the investigation for use of force, deadly use of force. So in my opinion, for us to try and waste our time, and I feel it's a waste of time because it's a resource that we don't need because we have all kinds of accountability mechanisms in place for law enforcement, especially in Olean. And just to touch on the accountability factors we have right here in the city of Olean, and the chief and the patrol commander can correct me if I'm wrong. Right from the onset, as soon as that patrol officer goes out on the road, he's got a body cam on. You have an extensive body cam policy, and I think that you've all read it, that says that it must be on under certain circumstances and only can be turned off under exigent circumstances or certain situations. So the officer is being recorded all the time. Every radio communication he makes is recorded. Okay, much less all the cell phones and everything else that are out there. The station itself is under video, and I think in some places audio surveillance. Your interrogations and interviews are recorded. Your booking of a suspect is recorded. And then for transparency, under the new law, the attorneys get all that information. They get all the audio or the audio and videotape of even a traffic stop for a traffic court violation. They get everything. So to me, that's accountability. Once we get into misconduct, then we should allow the certified professional educated law enforcement officials make the call. Now, for transparency or equity, I think that this committee could come up with a plan such as I go for accreditation, because in accreditation, when somebody files a complaint against a police officer or anybody, it has got to be handled in the exact same manner. It doesn't matter who you are, where you came from, where you live, or what you're complaining about. The form is the same and must be completed. The investigation must be completed, the same for everything. So it's just my personal opinion that, to me, I don't believe in a civilian review board. We have plenty of avenues for the accountability. I heard the chief a couple meetings ago and totally agree with him. Look, he says, I'm not going to put my livelihood, my career, or my pension, or my house on the line. And you know, this is 2020 and 2021, and it's not like it used to be. The officers out in the field, those who are diligent, those who want the job, and trust me, it's 99%, sometimes 99% plus across the entire United States. They don't want to lose their livelihood. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to lose their pension either. So if they're even in sight of wrongdoing, they're not going to what some people call the thin blue line. The days of the thin blue line are over because everybody has to protect their own livelihood, their family, and their pensions and their jobs. So in the old days, we called it CYA. Okay. Today is CYA. You know, I'm not going to lie for somebody else and throw my whole career down the tubes. I think we have enough resources. We have enough mechanisms in place for you know, to follow this and to keep our people in check. And I think that we should move forward and provide the resources or the additional resources for the problems that we may really have, such as people were saying that they're not comfortable. Sometimes if you're a person of color, you're not treated the same way, or you might be shown less respect than if you weren't. I think those are the issues this committee should try and resolve. We do that through community policing. We do that through community action, bringing people together in town halls, working out the problems, and then training our officers, make it more stringent, more training on diversity and those kind of things. I think those are the more important things that personally we should be dealing with. Vernon, I mean no disrespect, but on its face, the draft from New York City, I got to tell you about, it's totally illegal. It violates the collective bargaining agreements. It violates the Taylor law. It violates civil service law. It violates the city charter. To make this happen like this, you would have to adopt a local law. You would have public referendum. You would have to follow the election law as far as electing people to this board. And then there's so, it would take you, if everybody said yes, it would take you almost 1.5 years to litigate through this whole thing to make it legal.
Incorrect.
So that's my 2 cents.
Mhm.
Okay, anybody else?
I want to respond to that, but I'll let everyone else go ahead and.
Darren?
A little broken up, Darren.
Is it choppy still?
A little bit, but I think we can hear you.
I won't say I fully disagree with, everything that you just said, but what I'll do is I'll point out some issues to things that you said. So you made mention of, you have healthcare professionals and lawyers and things like that, and they have their own boards, and they're comprised of their own peers and professionals who hold certifications and things like that. The problem with that is we're not talking about lawyers. We're not talking about doctors that the public is having issues with. We're not talking about it's not even relevant. That's not even a relevant comparison to make. And the issue with, I'm not saying as far as Olean goes, I'm not saying that the issue is with Olean, but as far as law enforcement departments in general across the country, and the reason why these committees and things like that are being put together and this is being done in multiple areas is because you see issues with things happening with cops, and they're shooting people, lynching people, beating people, harassing people, doing all of this dumb shit. And nothing's being done. The only things that's getting done is they might get fired. And then come to find out, if you want to do your due diligence and research into it, they're probably still getting retirement, even though they're getting fired, or they're getting something. They're not really getting screwed very badly. They're not getting charged. They're not getting convicted. They're not getting sentenced. So that's the whole reason as to why something like a civilian review board needs to be civilians reviewing it and not other officers. I'm not saying you can't have maybe an officer or two, or like a chief or a captain on it, but you want it to be 90% comprised of civilians, and civilians who have actual credentials like me, who would know, and they've gone down channels to know a lot of the things that would need to go into the discussions in those situations. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just pointing out the issues to what you said. And those are the issues.
And the point that I was trying to make when I referenced lawyers and doctors, I wanted to make the reference of professionals, professional employees. Law enforcement are professional employees, so as doctors and lawyers. That's the coordination that I was trying to make there.
Gotcha. Okay.
As far as the civilian review board, you're right. You have to be educated. Okay, you can't just pick, in my opinion, you just can't go and pick any civilian off the street that wants to be on a review board. They have to be educated, and you have to know the process. You have to know what's going on, in my opinion. You just can't bring somebody in to judge, what's going on. I mean, it would be like, me going to the county and going in front of the county judge and putting on a case as a prosecutor. I can't do that because I'm not. I don't know. I don't know the ramifications. I don't know what I can and I can say as a prosecutor in court. That's the only point I'm trying to make. You have to be educated in the field to be able to make the decisions to know what's right and wrong.
Gotcha. Well, I agree with you. And I would say to compound on that, then the qualifications need to be clearly set as far as how, like, where the credentials need to be and meet those certain credentials and criteria to be on the civilian review board. I'm not really sure that I would agree with like electing people, because then you're going to have people that want to get on it and they campaign for it and then they're not meeting their credentials. And then that's when you might have like some people getting pushed in and put on the review board because they might know somebody or something might end up happening and they really shouldn't be there. I think it should be solely based off of like what you just said, credentials and education and actually knowing some things and having some type of a legitimate background and having it all verified. But again, the main point to that is it does need to be primarily civilians in this case.
Okay, we got Della and then Lori, okay? Della?
Right, okay. The earlier part of what you said about us policing ourselves, meaning a policeman policing themselves, that's what I was talking about before with the checks and balances that are in place. We have faith. Now, maybe I'm not qualified to talk about this because I haven't had the experience that some of you have had, and you pointed that out, and I appreciate that very much. But we do have, I do really, truly, honestly believe that if we had hammered on with a complaint about things that have happened that the police have done to us, I think we would have had a different opinion. Now, maybe I'm wrong again. I agree with you. I have not had the experience that you have had. And I appreciate that. But the earlier part, and I wanted to hurry up and get this in before we go on a different road. But the earlier part of what you said before about the professionalism, I do agree with that. Policing ourselves. Yes, I do. Did I make sense? Sorry.
Yes.
Sometimes I don't. You might surprise you, but sometimes I don't.
No, you make sense all the time.
Thank you.
So, okay, we have Lori and then we have Kim Rossi next.
My only comment on what Greg is saying, it's like me sitting on a medical malpractice committee. Like I would know nothing about the standards of the profession for a doctor. Like Greg is basically saying, your discipline, it's reviewed by a jury of your peers. And I wouldn't be fit to sit on a police misconduct commission. I could only tell you if they committed a crime. I couldn't tell you if they violated, but it's just basically saying if you're a teacher or you're a nurse or you're a lawyer or you're a police officer, your misconduct should be decided by a group of people who have had the same training and know, because every job is different. Like he said, lawyers are reviewed by other lawyers and judges. It's just because the standard of care is different for every profession. And like, none of us are qualified to judge a different profession than ours. I'm just trying to expand on what Greg's saying, but I totally agree that like, I don't understand police tactics per se. I mean, I can tell you if somebody committed a crime, but I can't tell you if, there's just so many differences in every profession that, and I agree that police are accountable to the citizens, but that's also why we have civil lawsuits and other measures in place. But there's also criminal review of police officers' actions. But I just wanted to expound a little on what Greg was saying, is that for a professional misconduct, it should be by other people in your profession, because they know the standard of care. They've had the training. They know how a police officer is trained to act in this situation. The rest of us, I have no idea how they're supposed to react in some situations. I have to consult and say, what did your training tell you? What does your training manual say? Or call somebody who trains police officers. But every profession is different. And, just like we can't judge a nurse or a doctor, I think it's the same with the police officer.
Okay. Okay, I've got Kim up next, then Vernon, and then Ann. So Kim?
Well, I just want to check this out. And one of the things that I think I might be hearing is that what we're looking to do is to have something in place to help build trust and to help improve relationships between police and members of the community. At one point in time, I think we had a discussion about people in the community don't fully understand everything the police do, how police are trained, issues of handling things like this. And I just wondered, at one point in time, we were talking about a citizen advisory board, which was something which was put into place to help build relationships, to help build trust, to have some relationship between citizens, or a vehicle by which there is a building of relationship and trust between people, citizens, and people in the community. If everybody feels really uncomfortable with a citizen oversight committee, which is taking oversight or responsibility for what's going on with police, could we not come up with a citizen advisory board or look at some type of a hybrid model that would allow us to look at something which will help with transparency, relationship building, and a better understanding? We had also talked one point in time, and I cannot remember exactly who brought it up, but it might have been Vernon, that talked about including some aspect of understanding systemic racism as part of helping to build relationships and having both sides better understood. And again, Del, I'm like you, I'm never sure if I'm making sense or not, but that's what I was thinking as I hear everybody talk, because there's pros and cons to both sides. So I'm done.
Okay, Vernon?
All right, hopefully I can remember everything that I was gonna say here. First, I agree with Darren and everything he stated there. As far as, let's see. Greg, I think you jumped the gun a little bit when you said that there was, we would need the education, the civilians would need the education. I was trying to find it in there, and it's a lot of reading. I read it numerous times while I was typing it, but I don't remember if it states it directly in there. But these civilians would get some type of training to allow them to understand how the police procedures work, I should say. And this would help them to be able to navigate through that. And as far as the voting tied to the charter, that is a process that was with the city. Again, that was something that I copied over to keep the integrity. That does not have to happen. It was suggested by one of the committee members that maybe we should go to signatures of the ward. Maybe if we obtain 25 signatures for the individual, then that individual can represent the ward and be one of the members of the review board. As far as this being a waste of time, that in itself, I don't think it's a waste of time. I think just from some of the comments and some that may have not had an opportunity to respond yet, I think that they don't see it as a waste of time. I think this is something that we should explore. And I know the mayor has mentioned that he would like to explore it, maybe not this particular setup here, but it's been mentioned that it's something that we should do. So I don't see it as a waste of time. As far as these educated and judges and lawyers, you're talking about the same educated judges and lawyers that have mishandled African-American cases and all of the other issues that we've had so many years. The trust is not there. The justice system is broken. So as far as trusting them to be the ones to advocate for whatever police officer that had whatever charges brought forth, I think that's a negative. When I think of that type of deal, I think about the kid down south that went into the church and shot those African Americans in that church. And then when they finally caught this kid, they took him to McDonald's or Burger King or something. That right there shows you where our professionals are and their line of thinking, because that would not have happened with anyone else. And that's the way I feel about that. That's just my opinion. But that's all my opinions based on my past. That's all I got to go on from there. But I do have some experiences with some, I share some of the experiences with the captain, and I just didn't pursue that avenue into law enforcement. So, and I don't know if I mentioned this, I have family members that are retired law enforcement. So to me, this is something that I believe we should pursue. That's it.
Okay, Ann, and then Mickey.
Thank you. I think it's Darren that spoke initially about, and I have great concerns about if there is a panel that's assembled, that it's elected individuals, that, as you had stated, I believe it's Darren, that they could possibly, obviously they're going to go out and campaign, they have to get signatures and so forth. And it's a very real possibility and concern of mine that you would have somebody who has a predisposed dislike or issue or past situation with law enforcement, and particularly perhaps with anyone in particular within the Olean Police Department. And that concerns me a great deal. I feel that something of this nature, of this seriousness, that the individuals, if whether elected or appointed, there has to be a very in-depth and thorough vetting process of anybody to determine whether or not they have any type of past history or issue that would, prohibit them from being an independent or not a biased person that's potentially going to have an impact on an individual's career and livelihood. I think that this is an issue that is extremely complicated. It is not going to be, I hope, not determined or voted on by us collectively, this group of us right here. I think that this would necessitate community input of, I don't know how you would do it. I noticed, I got online and looked at other similar sized communities that some of them, and I know that others have looked at this too, have already completed this process and have already submitted this information to the governor. We're late, very late to the game. And that's unfortunate, because I think we're all seeing right now, this is a very involved process. So I don't feel comfortable making this decision to move forward with a community panel I'm not neither opposed nor for it. I feel it needs a lot more discussion, a lot more community involvement. I think there are a great deal of legal issues. I work with a union. I just simply did not understand when they read that, how this community review board can make decisions on reprimand and so forth, when that's already very well established within a collective bargaining agreement. I don't understand that. So it would have to be explained. I just feel that this is really important. And if it's something that is going to happen and move forward, it's not something that we are going to decide within the time frame that we're being given to complete this.
Thank you. Mickey?
Okay, so in regards to the CRB, what you're looking for essentially is a liaison, and advocates or aides who can help not only with the, reviewing policies, procedures, complaints, etc., but and I think this is key here, to help restore the fundamentally damaged relationship between police and community. When over 1,000 people are killed by police each year, uh, you have to try and look at it from the perspectives of the people and the families that are suffering. Okay, they may not see all of these behind the scenes things, and as such may not have faith in the process or even the criminal justice system at large. So it is no secret that people have issues in trusting the system, and establishing measures like these, would serve to show our resolve and commitment into rebuilding that trust, and to enforce that we are listening. There are things that can be done. There are people you can talk to. There are places you can go. And I don't think that anti-intellectualism is going to get us anywhere. And that even though this initial proposal might not be the end all be all, that we have to try. And that's all.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ty? Go ahead, Ty.
There's a lot that I would like to say, but I'm just going to try to keep it short. I'm not against, like, I read this and I think it's a good thing. I think it shows accountability. I think it shows that we're trying to work with the community. I also think that I'm not against the people having qualifications like Darren and Mr. Carey talked about, but I would just simply say, as far as you saying that the citizens need all this training to know if anybody did anything wrong, I would ask you to just pay attention to what you see. When that officer laid on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, did you need training to know that that was wrong? Neither does a citizen. Nobody else that's seen that video needs to have any kind of training to understand that that's wrong. You guys, Mr. Carey, have been making these rules up forever. And it's our turn now, my community, it's our time, excuse me, to be able to let you know where you're going wrong. And if you're truly trying to work with us, do you see me as a human being, just like you see yourself? If you do, then you will listen to us. That's what we're asking. You guys say that there's already things in place that will hold police accountable. But then I ask you, if that was the case, the police department in all these cities around the country that this stuff happens at have the same things in place we do. They don't work, obviously, or we wouldn't have been here doing this. You wouldn't have had your citizens at the park up there this summer marching, protesting, because they understand how the stuff works. You want us to believe that, and no disrespect to Chief, I have full confidence in him, but he's not going to be the chief forever. How do I know who's going to be in there next? How do I know they're going to treat people the same way he does? We don't know that. So we want accountability for that. If an officer messes up and the chief says, well, hey, You know, this is, you guys don't understand because you're not police officers. You don't get that he had to kill that young man. Well, then what are we supposed to do? Just sit there and think that you guys are going to take the steps because our DA just explained to us that she's not even qualified to sit on the civilian review board, but she's going to be the one that represents the people because she states when she's in the courtroom, she says, I represent the people. But then she says there's a conflict going against an officer. That is one of our avenues, correct? She already told us we don't have that avenue. She took that away. So we need some kind of accountability.
Right.
Okay, anybody else? Lori, I'm sorry, Karen?
I had given Vernon probably 4 bullet items. And listening to all the comments today, I think one easy answer for Annie is to basically say, let's investigate it. Let's investigate the use of a civilian review board.
Yeah.
That'll give us time. That can go in the report. But here's my thing, and I've said on, can't tell you, over probably 70 committees. And we initially got together and we said, what is our charge? What is this committee supposed to do? So I think it's part of the investigation of whether we should or should not have this. What's its purpose and how is it defined? We can see what other, civilian review boards description would be. Maybe that'll give us a better idea. One of my things with Vernon was the whole election process, but a much, much larger pool. We have almost 18 of us on tonight. I think this pool needs to be a much larger pool, because what if I know the complainant and I'm on the civilian, there's only 7 people. What if it's 2 people knows what happened, or knows the individuals directly? We need a much larger pool if you're going to be impartial. So again, and because we're in a small town, that's even more important. We need to have 15 or 17 people till we can get a committee of 7 or 8, because people go on vacation or their jobs are too much, but if it's going to be an impartial review board, what is the charge of the board? And without going too far into assuming anything, I'd like to see more about that. So we could have in our report, investigate the use of a civilian review board. That could take 6 months to a year. We have no problem. I have no problem with that. And I'll sit with every one of you guys and hash out more, even after this report goes on. A couple of things I did send to Bill was the Cuba Village Police report, their totaled report. They did their public comment and all that. Very comprehensive. It's a PowerPoint form. Bill, if you want to, forward that out to the members, that's fine. The other one I looked at was Salamanca. It's about 7 bullets. And you can just go to the city of Salamanca, click on the thing and you see 7 bullets. I looked for a full report and it's not publicized yet. So my point of going to look at others was to say, are we missing something? From Cuba, from what I could see in Salamanca, we're on the right track. But again, because other municipalities are finishing their reports, it gave us a good thing to look at. But I did send those 2 to Bill, and you can go on almost every city. You could probably go on Jamestown, a very comparable size to ours. They probably have something posted.
Yeah. Okay, Lori, go ahead.
A lot of those people that already have plans didn't include civilians in their committees, just so you know. Also, with respect to what Mr. Malone said, if there's a suspicion that an officer engaged in misconduct, or if there was a shooting, like a serious injury, it would either go to the attorney general or a special prosecutor. So I wouldn't be the person to decide if one of the Olean PD guys committed an offense or did something wrong. I would send it to somebody who doesn't work with them. I just want to clarify that. I'm not the person who decides if a police officer should be charged because I have a conflict of interest.
Do you decide if it goes to the next person?
Yeah, but if there's any question, it would go to the next person. I'm not going to just not do anything with it. I mean, we have one right now that I'm trying to find a special prosecutor for.
Right, because you felt that it was a conflict, right? Between if you try to prosecute a police officer, that's a conflict. even though you
Correct.
represent
Well, and
the people.
it would appear, right, and it would appear
Right.
improper for me because these guys are my witnesses in a lot of cases. So I would get somebody who doesn't know them to look at the case and decide. And a lot of times it's a defense lawyer. I just wanted to clarify that because it's not up to me whether somebody's, I can't make that decision because I work with these guys.
But you can make the decision because you work for the people. When you step in the courtroom and you represent going against somebody, you're saying that you represent, you're here for the people, right?
Correct. But if,
Correct.
but if,
You don't say you're here for the police station.
no,
Right,
there's,
right.
if it's somebody that I work with, it's a conflict of interest under the law. And I'm not about to lose my pension or my job for somebody who did something bad.
I understand that. And I'm not saying that you would.
Okay.
It's just that this is what we be told. This is what everybody is told at every police department around the country. I'm not going to lose my job for somebody, but yet the stuff still happens. There is avenues for you guys to proceed if something happens, but yet it still happens. So I was always told if something's broke, fix it.
I agree. I hear you.
People keep saying we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're cleaning it up. Our spokes are dirty. It ain't running right.
So the city officials that serve on the common council make decisions that impact the police department. What training do they have? Do they take a crash course?
No, that's totally not that's not what I'm talking about.
No, I'm just throwing it out there that decisions are being made of people absent from the police force that govern the local police force. What is their training? What is their education? If that's the concern there.
No, that's completely different than a legal conflict of interest.
No, I'm talking about the Civilian Review Board and the expressed concern that it needs to be staffed by professionals who understand what's happening. Okay, not related to whatever you guys are talking about there. So the city officials make decisions that impact, police. What is their training? Vernon could weigh in on this. Anybody could weigh in on this. How are they able to make decisions that impact the police department, but a CRB shouldn't be able to?
I'll let the captain go.
Mike had his hand up, Vern, before you did.
Yeah, Mickey, I have what are you talking about? What decisions do the common council make that directly affect how we do our job other than what we get paid? I'm curious.
Budget, perhaps?
What we get paid, correct?
Okay.
Okay. Vernon, and then we'll get Della. Go ahead, Vernon.
I was just going to answer the question. My education, I have 3 degrees and a certificate, graduated summa cum laude, and none of it pertains to city government whatsoever. I guess my bachelor's falls under management. So, but no, it does not have anything to do with policing or city government.
So we could just have an in-house sort of training thing for people, and it could be as simple as that. Like Council President said, let's share and learn from each other.
Yeah. Just let me make a quick comment, and then it'll be Della. There is an opportunity for every alderman who is elected to have training through New York State Conference of Mayors. There is some, and there's also programs that the comptroller's office puts on, the state, many state organizations put on programs. Vernon has taken a couple of classes that have been offered. We have other aldermen that that do this. NICOM puts out a comprehensive manual for every elected official. So there is some, I know, you do a lot of reading, Mickey, and it's the same thing there. So let's go to Della.
No, my question is answered. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I have said several times now, Vernon is right. I have said several times now that I'm not opposed to a civilian review board. I think that what has been presented here is a lot of problem. There's a lot of problems there. Excuse me. Just ones that the election law, can we actually put, on the ballot? I've got a call into the election commissioners right now to answer that question. There's a cost factor involved. There's a lot of different things here for it to go this involved for, let's face it, may never, convene. Okay. I mean, is it going to be every complaint? Is it going to be, where there's physical assault or that, which has been stated that there is now the state attorney general is going to do those investigations. There's been a new, I guess just under the state attorney general, there's been a new part of her office is going to be answer police complaints. So I agree. We need I would like to see a police review board, but like I said many times with this committee, we are here to make recommendations. One of the recommendations can be that from this committee is that a police review board is established. Then it would be up to the Common Council and that to get into all of the inner workings of how it's going to be established in there. So a lot of good conversation tonight with this. Did I miss somebody's hand up? I see, Kenny, did you have your hand? Barry, go ahead. Barry?
You're muted, Barry.
Yep, there we go. I was trying to, my mouse wasn't working to get me to unmute. So I've been kind of uncharacteristically quiet, taking all this in, and there's been a lot of great comments here tonight. And as I mentioned to numerous people over the past several days, I'm always willing to change my mind. And I think I've got an opinion on something, and then I sit back and listen. And my views have been all over the place tonight because there's just so many great points. I think one thing that I just want to kind of remind all of us, that Vernon said it from the very beginning, that this is just kind of a starting point that we can jump off of and move from there. When I first read through this very comprehensive proposal that he put out, I had some concerns. I think that I'm on board with everybody else that we need to continue to investigate this, but there's certain things like, can we afford to have a full-time special prosecutor to manage things that we may not necessarily need as a full-time, but we can always tweak those things down the road. And I think everybody's had some really good comments. And so because of that, I'm on board with Ann and Karen. Can we put in the proposal that we're submitting to the plan that we're submitting to the state that, yes, we think something this needs to be investigated, whether it comes to fruition or not is up to what the investigation. It sounds as though there needs to be some level of committee review board or whatever we call it, but there has to be a clear defined objective for what they're supposed to be doing. And it might be that it's the liaison between the community and the police department, and maybe the discipline aspect is taken out and given to the professionals. One thing I think we have to remember is that all professions have their warts. Whether or not I was in medicine for 25 years, I can tell you there's lots of warts in medicine. They're just not as visible as the police department. Heck, I think last numbers were 250,000 patients die each year because of medical errors. That's more than police, but they're shielded, so whether right or wrong, I don't know, but we do need to investigate these things. So, I guess I'm just saying, I agree with Ann and Karen. It sounds like the mayor that we certainly need to investigate this more, but it's not going to be resolved before April 1st.
I got Kim. Kim, go ahead, and then Ann.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I think that Vern and Ty and Darren um, were really very honest with us in their thoughts and feelings tonight. And I think that that's important to thank them for being willing to risk um, being so honest with the committee. So I think it is really important that we listen to what they have to say. And I think that while we're not going to come up with a specific answer tonight, I do think that we should continue looking at something which is at least going to have some component of accountability. But I think it's important that whatever we do with this, it really helps to build relationships between the community and the police and brings about some element of furthering trust and transparency. And so I would really support Ann and Karen's idea that we at least say we're going to do something with us and that we continue to work on coming up with something that fits best for us in this community. Um, that's it. I'm done.
Okay, Ann?
I know we're anxious to conclude, but I just want to end the night saying that I'm encouraged and I hope that everything that comes out of this committee, whether it comes to fruition or not, is for our community, our whole community, Olean, not any other city, not any other area, but Olean and for all of us. I'm really encouraged by that. And I hope that's what the end process is.
Okay. Good conversation tonight. A lot of good ideas, a lot of good, and like I remember, I keep pounding on this, and I know you're probably going to get sick of hearing it, but we are here to recommend, and we've got many recommendations to put into our plan. So I did supply everybody with, I said I'd give an updated potential tentative schedule. We won't talk about that tonight, but let's put it on the agenda for next week. Take a look at it, see what you think, and we'll be here again next week. So if anybody has any other comments, that I know some didn't have comments in that, but feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to discuss things with anybody on an individual basis, or just wait till we come back in next week. Karen, you had sent me an email a week or so ago. I did ask you to call me, but give me a call tomorrow or tomorrow sometime, and I can talk to you about that email. Okay.
And Bill, my answer is I sit here all day with a whole lot of nothing. You call me when you're free.
Sometimes it's easier just to call and it catches me at a moment, but
there you go.
Yeah.
Mayor, I'd like to say something before we leave.
Sure, go right ahead, Vernon.
I just wanted to say, Kim, thank you. I appreciate your feedback. And I just wanted to say, I know I try my best to relay information or express myself without coming across as aggressive. I have a ton of respect for police officers, firefighters, and our service people. I think they all do an awesome job. I know that there are issues with a small percentage of people, but we're here to discuss it. So I just want to make sure that I try to bring up every point I can to express, how I feel, and hopefully we can come up with a good solution from there. That was it. I really do appreciate it, though.
Yeah, thanks, Kim.
Understand. Okay.
Can I say something real quick, Mayor?
Sure can. Go right ahead.
I would like to also echo what Vern just said and just let you guys know that sometimes I am a passionate person. That's just the kind of person that I am. That's how I talk. That's how I live my life. I'm passionate. And sometimes it could come across that I'm against the police. I'm not. I spoke to the chief today. I spoke to Captain Marshfeller. I'm sorry. And I have all the respect for these gentlemen. I'm just here to trying to foster a relationship for my community and the police department and make this something that will work. And I understand that everybody wants this to be for Olean, so do I. That's where we're at. And the community wants the same thing. And I just want to thank everybody for trying to, especially you two ladies, Miss Karen and Ann Kavari. You're talking about trying to work through things, talking about, listening and investigating, looking into see what really goes on. That's exactly what we need to do. And I just want to thank the whole committee for, trying to put out their best foot forward to help change the community and make Olean a better place.
All right. So everybody enjoy, have a good night. I think I'm just gonna sleep here tonight, so. So we'll talk
Night,
to you.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a nice
Night,
night.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.